Sanderson. There he is. What is even up? We're getting going here. Just very chill. Some chill time. And Boss as well. I may be saying your name wrong. Though we worked with Rage Squid, my Dutch is pretty poor. Pretty poor. I hope everyone's having a chill Thursday. Nice chill evening in Europe. Very late night. I feel like I'm far over here. Give me a second. Is that better? Sure. Let's go with that. Friday morning here, Natasha. Oh my goodness. I don't know that I know where you are. That's fine. You don't need to tell me, but it's cool. Thank you for tuning in. There's a lot of names I recognize. Sidechain. There's a lot of names I recognize from the chat that I just don't know the person that well as far as where they're from and stuff. Just know their name from their handle, right? And from Twitter occasionally. Australia. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. How are these tunes working for you? They're feeling pretty good to me. I'm feeling pretty good. It's definitely helping the chill vibes, that's for sure. It is. Quick housekeeping thing. It's looking like we're probably going to be trying out a noon start time rather than 4 p.m. going forwards. And the reason for that is so that people like Boss, who are having their work reviewed, don't need to be up until 2 in the morning. That's the idea, at least. So we'll see how it goes. And even East Coast to be hero. Yeah, there you go. It's a little bit different for me personally because I am splitting up my day kind of because streaming is very exhausting. I'm not sure if anyone out there is aware of this. But it takes a lot out of you being on stage for a while, you know? So, yeah, it's, I think it'll be okay though. You know, just take a longer lunch and work a bit later on Thursdays kind of thing. Take a little break. Should be alright. And I think I don't mind that when I have the, the opportunity to have more people as regulars, or happy to tune in and engage with the various people's work that we're having to look at, right? Have it at a more reasonable hour where they can feasibly do that on a regular basis, and it's not too much of an ask. Feels a little selfish, the 4 p.m. Pacific time. A little bit selfish. Anyway, who all is here? We got IG88. That's Brandon, is that right? Brandon Clark, I think. Jodgers. I think I've seen you before. You were here last time, I believe, right? Agolunga. Yes, seen you too. I recall this name. Derek. The Derek Brown. Sub over sub. What's up? Justin. Yo. Hope all is well in game Devon. Luis, good to see you. Sushi wrecked you. That's have I seen that name before? Maybe. I can't recall. Perhaps. If not, then welcome on in. And oh, the coiner himself, Brad Dyke, rolling in. The coiner of Real Talk, the name of this program. There you go. We have Brad to thank. Good to see you. Well, by the way, you're all being bamboozled right now. We're not playing this from Bandcamp. We're playing it from Fmod. It's playing direct from the source audio. Because I can loop forever, of course, right? I started like 8 minutes before the stream began. So we can't have a 3 minute and 8 second track play for our entire intro. But we have the access. And also, yeah, it's weird. It's paused. It's not even playing. Double up? No. The reason I'm playing Celeste is because we're coming up on the 3rd anniversary. Let's zoom in. The 3rd anniversary of Celeste. Can you believe that? Holy heck. Cannot believe. 3 years already. Get out of here. Yeah, so basically, the community has come together to organize a ceremonial event of sorts. So yeah, it's the Celeste 3rd anniversary 100% relay featuring 25 runners plus developer commentary. It's going to be at twitch.tv/Celeste Community. That's where it's at. That's on Monday at, what is it? It's noon Central. So like 10 a.m. for me, I think. And yeah, if you're unaware, so that'll be myself and Maddie Thorson doing commentary for the 100% relay. It's really cool. They made like, I'm not sure I fully understand it, but it's something like they have a mod that can, they're gonna like update the local game or something, and then the various runners can like play the current progress of that game. I don't fully get it, but the mods that for Celeste are crazy. The community is nuts. So yeah, they're gonna like, each person plays a portion of the game, and they just play the whole game through basically to 100%. Pretty cool. And actually, I am playing the prologue because I have the skills necessary to do so. Very, very easy. There you go. And then yeah, after that, you may have seen the Dev Bingo match. So, right, the Bingo match. I'm not sure you're familiar with the idea of bingo for all the people here right now, but the concept of bingo applies to a lot of video games actually, and it's basically always a mod. I don't think that any games ever had bingo built in, but the gist is that for a game like Celeste or like Link to the Past or Banjo-Kazooie or whatever, any kind of game where you can move like semi-freely in the world, it just populates a 5x5 bingo board, and there's various rules to it, but in general, the first person to 13 of the tasks that the board's populated with wins. So for Celeste, it might be something like, visit Theo in a certain part of the game, like go to that cutscene, or it could be like get 4 B-sides, or it could be collect 30 berries, or like 10 berries in 3 chapters, or something like that. And there's like 300 different tasks it populates from, so it's very randomized each time. And then it's head-to-head, so it's me racing against Maddie to get to 13 objectives completed first. And I can't see what Maddie's doing, so there's like some mind games involved, like trying to guess what Maddie will do next or what they'll be pushing for, and of course vice versa for them to me. And we did 2 practice matches. I've never done bingo at all, and we needed to set up some mods and stuff to accommodate for it because people have made like bingo UI in Celeste and stuff. It's crazy. So yeah, we'd never played before, so we did a practice match the other night, and I got smattered. Maddie destroyed me. It was really bad. I think the first match I got like 6 tasks done, and they hit 13. And the next one was a bit closer. I think I got to 9 that time. And I was really close to 10. And I went to click the task I completed, and they just got there before I did, like 5 seconds beforehand. It's crazy. So that'll be after the 100% relay. And it should be, we're calling it Celebrity Jeopardy, basically. Because it's going to be very loosely competitive with a lot of poor choices and uninformed decision making. It's just not going to be good. It's going to be real bad. So, but I think that's part of the fun, right? I mean, we're certainly not too serious about competing, hard or anything, but it should be a good time. I'm just reading up on Boss Game Audio says, fun thing to know for you, the Dutch Game Audio group here in the Netherlands is starting a Celeste Audio redesign challenge this month, just inside the group and for fun. That's super cool. And yeah, like, what's up, Jeff? As Jeff's saying, I mean, yeah, we'd love to see the results of that. It's super cool. I mean, the entire point of releasing, well, a large part of the point of releasing the Fmod project was to allow for things just like that. So that's awesome to hear. Super cool. And yeah, that's I saw in your bio, Boss, or maybe on Twitter, I think it was on Twitter. I saw that you're from there. That's awesome. Yeah, Rage Squid's there, of course. Yeah, ish. They're kind of from all around, but they had their offices there for a while. I think they've now moved to, I'm on the spot, I can't recall where they moved to now. But a bit more south, like nearer to where one of the devs is living right now, or two of the devs. Anyway, welcome on in, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone here. We're having a look at some content from Boss Bertrand? Bertrand? I don't know. I'm sorry. And then Benedict Sanderson. That's an easier one. For Benedict, it is 1 a.m. right now. My goodness. And midnight for Boss. So, yeesh. Brutes. This page like goes with the tunes right now. So chill. So nice. So I think what we'll do is maybe Benedict first, since it's later for you, so I can give you the chance to go to sleep if you have to work in the morning or something. I mean, both of you are up late right now, but I guess one of you wins, but it's just a hair. So anyways, just to quickly sum up, if you do want to watch that, again, it's on Monday at noon Central at Celeste Community. So feel free to follow that one and check it out. It should be a good time. It should be fun. Okay, and we'll pause this. Just joking. We'll pause in Fmod. Oh, that tasteful fade out. Lovely. Okay, so welcome y'all in to Real Talk. I'm sure a lot of you are more than familiar with how this whole thing works, but we're taking a look at some game audio demo materials from two people who have submitted a while back. The wait list right now is a little bit long. I think we're slotting in new submissions like mid-April, even late April. I'm not sure when it is, but yeah, there's certainly plenty of materials and resources out there to help you along in the meantime if you do want to submit right now and wait in the interim. But yeah, so for these two fine folks, we're going to be having a look at these websites and demo reels from a variety of kind of perspectives, and they're just down here. So we got presentation, material selection, content quality, and distinction. It's kind of 4 relative bullet points that myself and Matthew Martinson from Clay Entertainment came up with years back when we first began Real Talk in 2016, when of course Matthew was co-hosting with me then. And so presentation, we're looking at this site on the whole, just general design stuff. We're not looking to tear down like a crazy web design tear down seminar here. We're just doing general navigation stuff, like making sure that the most important stuff is easy to find. It's like the first thing you see, that kind of thing. Like, is there too much info or not enough? Just that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the presentation of the demo itself. We're looking at things like flow, like how long it is, general transitions, things like titling and information, bookends, all the things that aren't the audio, basically. And for material selection, we're looking at the various pieces that these two have chosen to put in their demo reel and in their portfolio, if it exists. I haven't seen it yet. And what those pieces might suggest to somebody coming in blind or semi-blind who might not know them very well, what it might suggest about what their past work history looks like, their current. Whoa, dropped out. Their current skill sets and their future ambitions. It's Pro Tools. Yeah, there it goes. Give me a second. Oh man, it's been acting up. I think my interface is going. Been having some quirks as of late. Maybe it's time to finally go to Reaper. That's the the show. The hardware is like, stop it, man, just stop it. Anyways, we'll see how it goes for the rest of the stream. I feel like I'm hearing some popping here and there, but we'll see how it goes. The third thing being content quality. Just, is it good? And if there's room to improve somewhere, I'm certainly happy to offer you my perspective at least. And of course, I welcome everyone in the chat to offer your own as well. And the fourth thing there, distinction, just are you standing out in some positive way? There's a big crowd of folks all vying for the work, so it's really important to stand out in some way, you know? Okay, so let me just make sure I'm all cranked up. I believe I am. Just staying silent for a second to see if I can hear myself popping. Odd. We may need to have a reset at some point in the middle of the stream. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so Benedict first, I believe, right? You're having to hold yourself back there. Do you mean in terms of Reaper? Evangelizing? Is that the word? Yeah, sure. Okay, so we got it. This is bsandersonsound.com, by the way. Give me a second. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do a classic playback engine little kick in the pants. One sec. Check, check. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So, yeah, bsandersonsound.com. For anyone following along at home, feel free. So we got show reel, about, sound design, music, contact, Twitter. Is this a vertical page? Looks like yes, it is. Okay, but the buttons follow us. So that's good. Occasionally they do not follow you. Okay, we got classic tanks, wise. Same tanks? Looks like it's the same tanks we've always seen before. We got bum note. Okay, let's just keep going down here. Music, contact, and Twitter goes to Twitter, I assume. Yes, it does. I can see it there in the corner. Great. There we go. And the mail to. But I can also select. Can I select it? I can't tell if I can select it. Ugh. Yeah, I don't like mail to links. I think they're very polarizing in the industry, but your call. Okay, so there's not a whole lot to look at here. That's not a bad thing, certainly. You can select. Okay, perhaps it's just me then. All right, about. Hi, my name's Benedict, and thanks for checking out my website. I'm a sound designer for video games and interactive media from London, UK, currently living in Milan, Italy. I studied audio production at SAE Institute, London, with a research paper on vaporwave and postmodernism being a personal highlight. I enjoy recording sounds and working out. Oh wait, working out what they can be. Like we were talking about your gym regimen, my bad. I enjoy recording sounds and working out what they can be used to build and represent. And I love designing and creating audio to pull you into a game's world. I get a real sense of satisfaction from working with a team of people, all pulling together to create something great, and would love to be part of bringing your next project to life. So we're looking freelance then, yeah? When I'm not playing or working on games, I'm into cycling, so some fitness, playing guitar, making a songwriting podcast, and short films with friends, and being my dad's homebrew beer tester. Cute. Okay, cool. I do like the final notes in some bios that are like, here's me, by the way. It's cute. All right. So let's review. This is certainly a fine length. I'm into it. Boss is also into the cycling. There you go. Cycle buddies. I enjoy recording sounds, working out what they can be. I mean, sure. I love designing and creating audio. Sure. I get a real sense of satisfaction from teams of people. Sure. Yeah, like this is all pretty generic, which is, I mean, it's really up to you. As I've said many times before, writing is like the thing I am worst at in the world. So I'm not here to edit your bio. But just, yeah, I'm sure you've heard before the kind of thing that I always push people to try their best to craft their bios to be as personal to themselves as possible. And any time that you see a sentence that could apply to anyone, maybe take a step back and think, well, how can I make that apply to me specifically instead? Like having people talk about, like, I love recording things. Like, okay, sure. We've seen people in their bios like talk about like things they have recorded, like trips they've taken, or like, like way the hell ago, we had Barney Oram come on. It was like, here's my 100 days of recording blog, like that kind of thing. That can really help you just stick in someone's mind a little more. Because yeah, it's not like I'm saying you're lying. Like I'm certain all these things are accurate. We're just talking about using being the most effective and most efficient with the time that you have. Because if someone like likes your stuff enough to even scroll down to your bio, then yeah, of course it should be your goal to use that time as best you can, right? Naturally. So AJ, what's up? Welcome on in. Good to see you. Okay, so we got some picks. Brad asks, how would you feel if someone had no bio? Honestly, it's the kind of thing I only miss if it's not there. Because it comes up a lot on Real Talk that generally, and everyone who's looking to get attention from potential employers, be it, if you're in freelance looking to work with a variety of people or looking to get attention from a specific studio or from a third party house like ours or whatever, I mean, you need to be using your time like really, really effectively. At my first GDC, Scott Gershon was on stage and said that your job as someone applying for a gig with my studio, I'm speaking as Scott, is to make me want to hear more within 10 seconds, right? So once that's done and you've succeeded at making them want to hear more, well, congrats, they now care about you more than they did before, which is not at all. Because when you have like hundreds of applications, of course, I mean, you don't have time to look at a deep dive into everyone's bio for every single person, right? So the first thing you do is say, are the skills there? If it seems like, okay, yes, at least maybe, we'll move on now, then move on to learning more. And of course, if your stuff's already strong and the person wants to learn more, I feel personally like the worst thing you can do is like not give them more, right? I mean, we've had, in the past, we've had several people come on and their reel is like just stellar, like just super solid. And then there's like no portfolio, or there's no additional information on themselves or on the works they put in the reel. And it's like, oh man, like this is such a missed opportunity, You have a moment to like actually capitalize on someone's interest, and there's just nothing there for them. So it's like it's the two of the 1-2 punch, right? That's kind of why I say that I only miss it if it's not there, because if the reel isn't to a level to pique my interest, like me personally, then I will probably just close the page or just like kind of skip ahead or whatever. I might not even see the reel or the rest of the reel, so the rest of the web page. My mistake. So if there's no bio in that case, I won't even know. But the moment I want to learn more, if there's no bio, it's like, oh, well, damn, right? So, all right. So scrolling down, we got proficiencies. Yeah, classic. So yeah, fine. Reaper, Pro Tools. I see it here. Begrudgingly Pro Tools. Isotope RX, nice. Wise, Unity, and Game Maker Studio 2. Not Fmod though, eh? Recording, designing for, and mixing ambisonics for linear and interactive 360-degree experiences. How fun. I'm also an English teacher, occasional video editor, aspiring games developer, and hopefully more than adequate cooker of Japanese food. I can get by in Italian, Spanish, and Japanese. Yeah, that's cool. Adding these things in here, just showing that like you are committed to other things, just shows that a well-rounded individual is like not a bad thing, Yo, Oberdin is so freaking good. So is Hades. Oh my goodness. These like Oberdin is like maybe my game of the year last year, as far as games I played last year. I was very late to the party. I understand this. I'm playing Hades right now, and it's awesome. We actually have a Slack channel on Power Up Slack that is Chat Hades. We're all deep in it. I also can't believe that Darren Korb is the voice of Zagreus. It's totally crazy. I told him the other day to leave some talent for the rest of us. What a guy. Great. Okay, so in Assign Design, we'll get to this later, I think, after the reel. And music as well, contact. If you'd like to work together and know more about the projects I've been up to or anything else at all, please feel free to get in touch. Yeah, interesting. So the projects I've been up to, I'm trying to highlight things and I can't really, it's like barely changing the kind of whiteness of the text. It's a little more white. Yeah, I mean, no more about the projects. I feel like, well, we'll see what you have these videos detailing and stuff. I mean, do people need to know more? We'll see. I'm just a fan of like cutting down text wherever you can, so that's kind of one of those things. Tanda Pata says, would you personally recommend single page websites? I'm not sure I would say I recommend it. I've certainly seen pages that are awesome that do this, that scroll vertically, and some that are awesome that have, the classic go somewhere else style navigation across the top. In terms of one page being like only one thing and nothing else, then maybe not. We had like, what was his name? Right, wasn't it this? Give me a second, sorry. I don't know if I have it available. No, I can't find it, sorry. But we had one recently that was like only a reel and then some like contact links. And the reel was good. And that's exactly what I was talking about like just previous to this, is that it was just tragic that there was not more content there because we wanted to see it, right? That's all. In terms of vertically scrolling, I mean, well, have you heard the good news of everyone prepare your shot glasses? Have you heard the good news of joshadambell.com? Because this page is super, super good because you scroll down, you're like, oh my God, Josh has done many things. And that's kind of all you need to know. Like before you even listen to anything, you're already kind of on Josh's team, So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like the vertical page is going to get you the job. Of course, the content's the most important thing. Yeah, boss, the games I've been playing or enjoying lately, I love that. I love seeing that. It definitely, it shows that you are invested in your industry and you're vying for this gig for a reason, right? I mean, I answered 2 different emails last week that were classic, like, how do I break into the industry style emails? And I don't mind replying to those ones. I have a pretty template thing I'm happy to modify a bit and use to reply with. And both of them actually were kind of like vaguely in games, but mostly they had backgrounds in like studio recording, like music or film, like that kind of thing. So having like games I've been enjoying lately, even if your background's film, like having that, I think is a really good thing. I mean, like I love Control. Meanwhile, Control's audio is like super, super good, right? So it can't hurt, certainly. The one thing though I would say is it's good as like an addendum to everything else. If that's all there was, then I'd be kind of like, okay, well, that's good to know, but like, what have you done and what can you do? It's a little more important than what games you like. That's all. Yes, Benedict. I'm so sad I can't play Oberdin again for the first time. Oh my goodness. Agreed. Holy. Yeah, speaking of leaving some talent for the rest of us, again, Lucas Pope did all the music himself because why not? And just handled like all the audio work himself. Yeah, true story. I saw Lucas 3 times in person between the release of Oberdin and when I finally played it. I saw him 3 times in the middle, and I played it during COVID. So I have not seen Lucas since I played that game, and I have a lot to talk to him about. I would love to be at a party at some GDC or something like that and talk his ear off on everything he did and me wanting to learn more. Anyways, this is not an Oberdin retrospective stream. We'll carry on. Let's go ahead and watch this reel, yeah? Let's do it. Go full screen, close. And I'm all cranked up. I believe I am. Hopefully my audio behaves. I apologize in advance if it starts crapping out. 104. Awesome. Let's go. I'll turn my sidechain off too. 1 second. Sidechain off. Let's go. Oh, you know what? I didn't turn on FL Studio. No! 1 second. 1 second. I can't have no applause. Oh my God. I realized I closed an NDA project and then just didn't reopen the important thing. How embarrassing. Okay, we're good there. Give me a second. We'll get there. Oh my, apologies. We got there. That was nice, man. Nice work. Luke Sanderson, hey, is that a family? Oh, I'm a sidechain again. Is that a family project? Cool, if so. Good stuff. Your brother. I too have made a game with my brother. I did Phonopath, that puzzle audio game that no one can play anymore because Flash is now antiquated. But yeah, so my brother Colin did all the front end, all the Flash coding and stuff, and I did all the audio work. Cool, good on you. The zoom out in tanks was nice. I don't think I was kind of inner monologuing during this one, and I don't think I've ever seen someone zoom out in a tank's like video capture before. My goodness, the attenuation. Wow. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna rewatch this last clip because it was at this point I realized I didn't have applause hooked up. I totally got sidetracked in my head. So let's do that. Cool. Sorry about that. Thank you, Benedict. All right, so let's talk about some presentation, shall we? We have this opening. It's cute. Although I think it suffers a little bit from something else we'll get into. We'll talk about that for content quality, though. Moving on, we got some. Oh, look at these lower thirds. Holy, they're a little bit low. As you can see, it's competing with this stuff. It's super detailed thing. It's very easy to kind of get that kind of thing wrong. If it's just too low on the screen, put it like a third up. It's a lower third. Otherwise, trailer sound redesign. Yes, great. I think I've seen that before. Was it from you or somebody else redesigned this? I don't recall. I vaguely recall seeing this redesigned in the past by somebody. Let's have a look here. Moving on, transitioning to the next thing. Okay, so it's full-on palette cleanser. Sure, I'm not against that idea. I think with the nature of what you chose to lead with, you kind of have to palette cleanse there. I'm not sure you can easily do like a J cut where we begin hearing video game, before we see it. So sure, okay. Someone else had it recently. Okay, sure. Thank you, Benedict. Yeah, I can't recall who that was. Oh well. So yeah, video game, excellent. I do like how this is kind of getting into content stuff. But I like how this is such a massive departure from the previous one in terms of sonic palette. It's cool. And tanks. Unity tutorial project, sound redesign, and wise integration. Yeah. And then the last thing we have, first though, this title says sound design, composition, wise implementation. Right, so it's a bit show reel, which is why it says show reel. We have the music as well. And finally, XCOM 2 by Fireaxis, sound redesign. So yeah, here's a question though. So what do you want to be working on moving into material selection? Because I'm not super clear on that. Your website, we've already seen it. So, oh, hi, it's in front of it. It said here, if you'd like to work together. So when I see a page that has that on it, I assume you're looking to work freelance. This is my assumption. And yeah, Risk of Rain is certainly a small enough developer. I mean, is it? I think it is. It's with Chucklefish, right? Isn't that their publisher? I think they're small enough they'd probably be in the market for, or they likely already have someone on sound design. I'm not sure who it is. But the point is they probably don't have a sound designer on staff. I might be wrong with that, but I mean, indie devs in general would be, your likely targets they wouldn't have like a sound department on staff unless they're the kind of like larger indies like III folks like Clay Entertainment, right? Would have a pretty sizable audio department. So Tuba Hero says, what if you want to work indie but really want to redesign some AAA games? I mean, by all means, do whatever you want. Of course, if you want to do something, then do it, right? But just be aware that when it comes to communicating your ambitions and your interests, that's kind of what redesigns do. That's the purpose they serve. So if you have a team like, I don't know, like Frontier or something with Elite Dangerous, if you send them just picture two different candidates for that position, right? You have one that has sent them a reel that's a minute long, it's all redesigns, and it's all indie stuff, right? And then you have a redesign over here, it's a reel of all redesigns, and it's like all sci-fi content, like all AAA sci-fi content, or even like sci-fi adjacent stuff, like maybe not as hardcore as like We're Flying in Space, but like a game like Control, even a Control redesign will be more relevant to the kind of work that Frontier does compared to like a Risk of Rain redesign. Or, I mean, Risk of Rain is also like, this is pretty high fidelity, so it's not the best example of like, this doesn't match what we're doing at all. If it were something like a Celeste redesign, right? Like Celeste has nothing to do with Elite Dangerous, like almost nothing, right? So if you're showing like, hey, here's my redesign, generally people can assume that you're doing redesigns because they resemble the kind of things you want to be working on one day. That's what it comes down to. So again, by all means, work on AAA stuff to tune your chops and to hone skill sets you don't have otherwise working in the indie space. But along with that comes communication, right? That's the thing. Then you could tailor a demo reel to whatever job has a vacancy, right? Yes. So in this economic climate, it seems difficult to say I want this even smaller niche in a small industry. I mean, sure, but again, it's not only you communicating. It's you. It's the hiring party, whatever they might be, comparing you against all the other candidates. So it might be that you're awesome, and your indie redesign communicates this, that you have excellent chops and you sound super good. But if there's another candidate that sounds just as good as you, but they have communicated that they have like all this sci-fi interest in the AAA space, they're probably going to get the gig. Like it's at least more likely. I feel really strongly that that's true. You might get interviewed with the indie reel, but again, if you're measuring up against somebody else, it's not only your skill sets and your interests. It's like you're measuring against somebody else, and a lot of that's just general perception, right? I mean, if they see your reel and go like, oh, pretty cool, and they see somebody else's reel, there's like a psychological thing there. It's like, oh, damn, like this is a very good fit for our team immediately before we even know who they are and see anything else. That's the idea. So yes, I fully recommend if you want to like do just a ton of redesigns in different parts of the industry. If you're not quite sure what you want to be doing, if you're just open to different things and you are genuinely interested in a variety of things, then sure, by all means, do a bunch of things. And then you can, like you said, tailor a demo reel, tailor your application for whomever you're applying to. That's great. Absolutely. Let me just catch up on chat a little more too. Right. So are indie devs more often choosing Fmod over Wise just because the licensing for smaller projects is pretty generous for Fmod? I mean, currently, I'm not super up to date on what the Wise terms are right now. Actually, the Fmod ones either. I haven't had to look at for a new project for a while, so it hasn't been something I've like needed to look up. But I think in general, again, this is very much like a question you could ask a variety of people and get different answers probably. But in my personal experience, yes, I would say Fmod is a little easier for indie devs to get into on both the financial side and also in the general implementation side. It's a bit more like ready to go, whereas Wise is much more like under the hood. I mean, there's a lot of things that in my personal experience I've worked on in Wise where I'm like, oh man, this is Fmod. I could be done now. It's much more streamlined, and sometimes it's what you want. And for Wise, I'm sure there's plenty of developers out there who are like, no, I need more control than what Fmod gives me. So this comes down to what you need from it. That's all. Excuse me. So separate indie redesign demo reel in your portfolio section. I mean, yeah. So having a separate reel available in your portfolio section is kind of like tailoring your reel to its audience. In that case, if you're applying to an indie developer, you'd probably be sending it to them. Like, it's very unlikely that let's say, hypothetically, some indie dev puts up on Twitter, hey, we're making a new cool game. Here's some screenshots, maybe a GIF or two, and we need a sound team. We need a composer. We need a sound designer, maybe some voice talent. Let's go. Anyone interested, hit us up. They're going to get inundated with responses, like hundreds for sure, total. So that said, that person who is posting that on Twitter is not going to just happen upon your website and be like, oh, good thing to have their indie reel in their portfolio. Otherwise, I might think they were into AAA only from their front page. Like, it's just not going to happen because they already have hundreds of things to look at. So if you are the one who's applying to that team or person, then of course you'll send them the indie thing if that's most relevant to them. So it isn't even it's not a super like important consideration if like where the thing is. It's more like, who are you applying to? It's in that case, then perhaps you're right. You might want to have like a link that goes right to the front page of your site, but with the indie thing up front, or the front page with like the sci-fi thing or the AAA thing up front. And of course, like, link people accordingly based on what their field is and what's most relevant to them. That's the idea. The crux of all this, at the core of all this, is your goal is to not waste their time, right? Like, put the most important thing and most relevant thing in their face immediately so that their limited time is used very effectively. That's the idea. Okay, so moving back to Benedict, thank you for your patience as we segued hard there, or tangented hard. Tangent's the word. Okay, so so given that you're looking to work in indie things, then XCOM is probably, I would say, it's probably beyond that. Like, Fireaxis is not like a massive developer, but I wouldn't call XCOM 2 an indie game. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's really up to you in the end, kind of how you want to best communicate what you want to be doing and how you want to decide what you want to be doing, right? It's up to you. But I know you've watched the show enough and with that chat we just had right now, you can certainly take enough from that. Let's move on to content stuff. So my feelings in the Risk of Rain trailer is that it felt a little bit flat. Like, I feel the dynamic range is maybe the biggest issue for me. I'm gonna play it one more time just for kind of reminded, and that's kind of what I was talking about with the intro too. But we'll get to that. Let's press play. Like, you've got some stuff that really you're cranking the volume nice and high on it, like that final scream and the of the item get, or is that what it is? Like a chest, right? Yeah. It feels like, in terms of gripping someone's attention, like grab them by the cuff and hold their attention. I think you could explore juggling the focus in terms of dynamics and volume a little more actively, because right now I mean, in terms of the loud things, I'm gonna watch this one more time with you, and just like kind of track for yourself like what the loud things are in the trailer. Like I would say that's the first loud thing so far. Like even that explosion was not. It was pretty polite. It was not very explosive. It was pretty like, which is sometimes a perfect explosion. That's exactly what you need. But in the case of a trailer design differs from in-game stuff a lot. I mean, again, we're talking Hades, right? So like listen to something like I don't know what they're called, but there's like the little pots that you can touch, or if you attack them, the kind of radius appears around it, or the circle appears on like the kind of flashing orange thing, and it blows up. Like listen to that explosion. The explosion is so polite. It's like, it's nothing. But for that game where there's so much happening, it's really effective, and it's fine, totally fine. For this one, it's maybe understated. And this is even louder, I think, than the laser, no? Yeah, for sure it is. So that's great. Like this section is nice in terms of focus and reflecting what's most important to the player, the viewer, I guess, rather. But earlier, I think that, yeah, it's a matter of saying, like, what's important now? And in this case, we have someone in the chat mentioned low end and such. Yeah, totally. This could use a lot more depth. I was caught, as I do occasionally, I'll check my master, like my mains, like the main out, and be like, do I have any Q on right now I just forgot about? And I totally don't. So there, yeah, you can for sure have a little more subs in there. Like this trailer makes me like suspect that maybe you don't have a sub, which is, a financial barrier. Certainly, they're expensive, so it can be worthwhile to like reference on different systems if you can. And I mean, this goes for anybody. I mean, for any mix, really, reference on different systems. It can really eliminate some things in the mix you may not have heard otherwise. So yeah, the dynamics thing in mind. What's the intro again? Like this, what's the climax here? What would we say the climax is? Probably that, right? Bum pops in. It's my name. It's my contact info. Aren't you all excited? I know I am. So, but it's so polite. It's like it pulls back. It sounds like an orchestra hit that you turn down. I think you have room to really like push the things that are loud, that should be loud. Consider what's most important right now and like push that to the front. Like the shots off screen are probably fine. Like this throw, we hear it, which we should. This explosion is like so quiet. For sure you can pull that up. And you can do things like, I mean, this is getting a little more advanced, of course, but when you're pulling things to the front, that doesn't just mean like crank this knob up and now the problem's fixed. It could be like you're turning other things down to make room for it, right? It's the classic kind of cup of water analogy of like you can't just dump all these things into the cup and be like, oh well, now it tastes even better with like a ton of all the ingredients. Like you need to remove things to put other things in, otherwise it'll spill over, right? So in this case, the idea of like this big stomp, for instance, you could even have the stomp being so loud it's like deafening and everything else is pulled up for a second. Same thing with the explosion, like pull everything out. The example of, I think, Nuclear Throne came up recently on a past broadcast, and we were saying how Jonas Turner, who did the design for that one, like he ducked the entire mix on loud weapons, like grenades and stuff, like the explosions. And the bigger the thing, the more he ducked things. And there were things in the mix that would just like duck the entire mix silent while the explosion's happening. So it doesn't mean like you need to just crank the thing and be like, hope it's fine, probably gonna clip, oh well. Like you can pull everything else and come back up again. And when you listen back, it'll probably sound fine. Like you're not gonna think, oh geez, I can't hear the gunfire during the explosion. It won't matter, you know? It'll sound fine. It'll sound great. Yeah, and the classic more ambience question also, you know. There's kind of things around, but the mix is really centered. Like it's a lot of stuff right in the center, you know. I mean, mind you, this trailer does have a lot of like things in the middle, mind you. So that comes to you to make these choices of like, well, what do I think is on the left and right of the screen or like in the environment or whatever, right? It's you know, you could always have things like a little more foreshadowing to what's happening before this kick. Like, is that really the first thing that we would have heard there? I mean, maybe. I do like how this moment we hear none of the environment. That's cool and appropriate for the scene. And then moving on, it's like back to the stuff happening. And there's a lot of enemies around probably, right? But we don't really hear a whole lot of that. There's some like some little laser things and stuff, but that's kind of it. And then here it becomes really a little more egregious that it's so centered. Like there is some verb at the very end, left and right. That's kind of it. So with huge sounds like this, especially when you're stylizing things for a trailer, or rather, I'll rephrase, especially for a trailer, feel free to stylize things. Like you can push things like hard left and right. No, not hard left and right, but like just wider, right? So I do it all the time. I'll design something and put it through a plugin like Little Alter Boy, and that naturally goes like super hard. It's a stereoizer, right? So it goes super hard left and right, and then I just pull in the left and right. So we have like a narrower stereo field, but it's still wider than like the sound is there. You know, it's just so you can kind of juggle, or you can balance and move around that narrower stereo field in the mix, but it still leads to like a richer kind of canvas overall. It's not just like there's point source things everywhere. We have now point source kind of objects with their own stereo fields, respectively. So you can do that too. In the chat, Bob Zed says, "Hey, I'm new here. How can we have your feedback on our work?" Yes, so To Be Hero nailed it. You can DM us on Twitter with a request, or via @RigamyK. That's me personally. We'll get it either way. And if you're not on Twitter, you can do it via the website there. We have a contact inquiry form. And right now, new slots are opening in like April-ish, so it's a bit of a wait list, but feel free, of course. And welcome on in. You might learn something, even though we're not looking at your work specifically, too. Yeah, there I said no J-cut. You probably could fade a bit earlier, like presentation-wise. You know, have the reverb tailing out as you transition across the new thing. It kind of drops to 0, right? Or to negative infinity. It's like full silence and then back in again. But hey, why not just pull it in earlier, you know? You have this journey you're taking us on, just keep that train moving. Yeah, it's cute. I like the stereoizing on the death sound. It's kind of a cool update to that sound effect, or that sound palette being very, you know, very noise and 8-bitty, 4-bitty even. It sounds like Sfixer. Is it Sfixer or Befixer? Like SFXR? I'm curious. That first sound especially. No idea what Fixer is. It's SFXR is the name of the tool. So if it's not, that's fine. LSDJ, okay, cool. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it doesn't show very much, and that's kind of all you need to show. Like, hey, I did a thing in a different style. Look at this, neat. And it's things you're like actively doing. It's not a redesign too, so good for you. This is cool. It does the job of saying, hey, I'm learning things on my own, and isn't that cool? It sure is. Good job, Benedict. And it sounds pretty good too. That's not a given for those kind of tutorial projects. So nice work. And finally, I like the UI in here. It's cool. That one especially. This like confirm into the spin up. Really nice. Again, you have room for low end there for sure. You do. This is a pretty big, impressive, powerful weapon. You know, you can certainly communicate a little more power and strength with that low end. Just have some thump in those impacts. I'm super not a guns guy, you know, just disclaimer. But that's my feeling watching this. It's kind of the same thing as the rest of the reel. Just you have a little more room for some low end there. Yeah. Have some fun, explore that, see what happens, you know. Very nice. One thing I'll say also, the last thing I'll say is this final bit felt like it was a departure from the opening. I thought perhaps it made sense to have a little more of like this approach in the end, just for like from a branding perspective. Up to you. Equinox Fracture, what's up? Good to see you. Is it worth highlighting somewhere that those sounds were done on LSDJ? I mean, is it perhaps somewhere? Let's scroll down. Oh, is it here? It's not here. It's not here. As far as I can tell. Oh, maybe it is. Oh, no, it's not. So written in LSDJ for the Game Boy. Well, is that? It is here. There's something there at least. Doesn't explicitly say sound design as well, but hey. Let's move on to bass right away here. I know I'm aware of the time here. Now it's 5 p.m. PST. We had a hard tangent on the psychological aspect of communicating your interests and hopefully talents to prospective hirers. So let's go ahead and watch one of these real briefly. Let's do Fire's spell breakdown.
Hey, this is Benedict, and I'm going to go...
Yeah, it is. What's up, Benedict? Let's go.
Go through the sound design I've done for a little competition from Native Instruments and Marshall McGee on metapop.com.
Narrate that.
So, first of all, let's have a look at what I've done. Alright, cool. So the animation is done by Artworks, a guy on Instagram. You can find him, and I'll link his stuff in the description.
I actually watched the Marshall. It was Marshall McGee, right? Is that who it was? Marshall something. Yeah, I watched the full like 45-minute one. It's pretty good. It's cool.
So this is the majority of the fiery stuff. Most of these fire samples came from Soundly. Let's have a listen to this first one. Now what I've done to give it a bit of a Dopplerish kind of effect and to make it longer, I've placed some stretch markers around here. So the pitch will start a bit lower than it should. It will rise, and then it will slow down again, and the pitch will drop. And then, because of all the distortion I've got going on...
But what tool is this? It's not Pro Tools.
Signal. It's just Devil or Decapitator. It's all the distortion stuff, I think, in Effect Rack, doing a little bit of stuff to make it a bit more crackly and grisly. And then I've got a final volume envelope going on here, because with all the compression going on from the distortion, this fade-in doesn't do that much to the actual overall volume of the item. Cool, let's have a look at these ones. More fiery sounds. There's a lot of distortion going on here again. It's quite high up on the drive.
Decapitate that.
This guy...
Skipping ahead.
Out, just like how Marshall McGee said in his video. It's just to keep the sub stuff as mono as possible.
That's cool. Good on you, pal, for basically going through the same thing that Marshall McGee did, and even like saying, "Hey, the same thing that they did," then that's still, you know, relevant and good. It's like I'm learning from people. Cool. I think I'm probably keen to move on from here, but I apologize. The ponytail. What? Okay. I'm keen to move on, but honestly. Yeah, this is great. Like all this stuff you've shown here. I think the yeah, it's something we don't talk about a whole lot. I think this kind of thing, like showing your chops in like whys or breakdowns or whatever, they're really effective in terms of like how do I phrase this? I think it's more effective if it's a AAA gig. And I don't know if that's ever something we've talked about, but it's now like kind of come to the forefront of my mind because of what Tubi Hero said in the chat a while ago, saying that if some indie dev was hiring and they put up some GIFs and stuff on Twitter, they said in the chat like, oh, well, in that case, I would totally do a redesign of those GIFs. Absolutely, you should do that. Totally. Like, it's the most personalized redesign you could do, right? Like, I mean, what's more relevant to their project than their project? Do it. So that's the kind of thing that can go a really, really long way. And I'm not sure that like an indie dev, just from personal experience, we get a whole lot out of like watching a tank's whys breakdown. I don't know that would pique their interest. But regardless, it being here is cool. Again, like I showed you Josh Adam Bell's page, just scrolling down, it's very impressive, right? You don't need to watch anything, and you already know that Josh is very serious about his craft, right? So there you go. In general, having them is awesome, and like Fa in the chat is saying, solid representation of chops and personality. Yes, personality, huge. Video games is a personal industry. It's a people industry. And learning a little more about the people you might be working with or might be considering working with is a very effective thing or very important thing and a helpful thing from a hiring standpoint. And having videos like this where you're like, hey, what's up? Let me walk you through this thing I did can go a long way. And in general, when it comes to that, I would encourage anyone considering doing that kind of thing or who already has done that kind of thing to consider it from a like presentation heavy standpoint. Like, how can I trim the fat the most? And you might end up having to do it like 4 or 5 times, like rehearse it and go through it, right? Because it's not unlike doing a TED talk or something, right? I'm sure we've all sat through presentations that are like, watching paint dry. I saw one at GDC my first year that was like every slide was like a white background and black text, and I literally fell asleep in this talk. I felt terrible, but I mean, there were other talks that same event that I still recall to this day, and this is like 2013, right? So it's just very important to again be courteous of people's time, and if your goal is to have them watch the whole video, I mean, what better way to do that than have like awesome flow and like high energy and such, right? Naturally. Overall, this is solid, Benedict. I think the only thing, like the big thing there is what we talked about in terms of content quality and in terms of the focus of your redesigns and such, as far as what you want to actually be working on, and just try to best set yourself up for success when it comes to applying for a certain kind of gig. Just try your best that your reel does communicate like, yes, I do want to work on a game like yours. That's really up to you what that game looks like. So thanks. Nice. I didn't like explicitly say you are standing out, but I think you are. Yeah, sure. I think you have some work across the board, in terms of like communication, in terms of content, but I think you're like above average in general. I'll put it that way. Like of all the various things in the bar graph, I think it's like generally they're all kind of, a little above the median. But on the whole, I don't think anything's like blasting through the ceiling. It's all pretty solid. Like I would have loved to see what a slightly more kind of tailored version of this page looks like. Yeah. I'm sure you'd be happy to send it my way if it ever exists. So please do. Okay, let's move on to Bas. Thank you for your patience. I hope you're not asleep by now. Hope you're still awake. Oh, you're clapping in the chat. There you go. Still awake. Perfect. Okay, we got Bas Bertrand. Home, sound design. Is this a vertical page? It is a go somewhere else page. Okay, music. And about and contact. Wonderful. How's the zoom? Should I zoom in a little bit more yet? Let's go with 200. It's pretty high zoom. That's okay. Hey, I'm Bas, a sound designer for video games and currently based in Utrecht, the Netherlands. I love telling stories with sound and the challenges interactive game audio provide. And I firmly believe that in game audio, the technical and creative process should amplify each other. Okay. During my study in music and technology at the University of Art in Utrecht, I worked on interactive sound art with programs like Max MSP and Pure Data, composed music for theater and film, and eventually settled down as sound designer for video games. When I'm not working on sound design, I look to explore, cycle, and hike. What up? That always happens on Real Talk. It's always like the two match in some way, you know? I don't know what it is. It's so interesting. I'm always armed with a microphone to record the sound jewels I encounter. That's nice. These sounds are often used in my work as a sound designer. Well, naturally, they better be. Unless you're like me, where you record things and just never edit them. I'll do it later. 2 years later. All right. We got skills here. Ableton Live, Cubase, Max MSP, PD, Unity, Unreal 4, Fmod Wise, GitHub, Slack. Okay, sure. Trello. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Trello. Big fan. Is it worth mentioning tools like DAWs plugins? I think most people would say no. Like most people in hiring positions. When it comes to indies don't know what Reaper and Pro Tools are. They will not care what they are. If you are able to make the things they need for their project, then they're happy. That's it. When it comes to larger companies, it's a maybe, basically. I do know that some AAA teams, some of them have, for example, like only Pro Tools in their control room. They have like a live room and control room in their studio space, right? So Pro Tools proficiency might be a thing. They might also want like parity, like software parity across the entire company, so that when they're sharing project files and such, one person working in Logic like might be an issue. And like Brad's saying, they might be stoked to hear that you know Reaper. That's very possible too. So it's the kind of thing that you won't like be hired for, but it's the kind of thing that would probably come up in an interview setting. Like, hey, what are you using to, what software are you comfortable in, etc. Yeah, mostly when it comes to like studio gigs. If you're freelance, then no one cares. Okay. Let's go to home again. See contact? I did. Nice. Home. More real. It's kind of funny. Like, is it reels? Or is it just more of this reel? Hey there. I am Bas, a sound designer for video games, currently based in the Netherlands. Yes, we've heard that already elsewhere. This is the abridged version. The smiling face. Wonderful. Okay, let's watch this thing. It's 1:41. It's so long, boss. Okay, we'll see how it goes. We'll see. Sidechain off. Out of courtesy to you. Let's do it. All right, so at about 22, I felt the urge to glance ahead, to perhaps skip and see what else he had in this reel. Because A, I knew it was 141, and B, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that shortly. Watch the whole thing for the sake of the site, for the stream though, okay? Let's do it. Cool. The J cut into the applause. Oh, space bars and pause. There's a thing, I suppose, yeah. Consideration. Okay, so let's talk about this. I like how this section kind of like mirrors your website, actually. It's nice, you know? The trees and the trees. See this? That didn't escape me. If it was intentional, then cool. If not, then whatever. Good bonus. Presentation. So this is a long reel. It's not like offensively long, you know? It's not obnoxious, but and I say that jokingly. There definitely is such a thing as like an obnoxiously long reel. It does exist. I received a 9-minute reel, not in the show, but just someone applied to Power Up at some point, and it was like, oof, pretty long. The goal here, again, just to maximize the effectiveness and efficiency of the time you have, because it's not much when it comes to applying for a gig and all the people that are also candidates for that gig. You will not get much time, and it's not mean or rude. It just is the nature of the beast that people have limited time, and there's a lot to get through, so they can't spend like 5 minutes on everyone's page, right? Like sometimes 10 seconds, and they're like, nope, close page. Like 8 seconds in, it can happen. So that said, 141 is a little long. I think that 130 is probably the max that anyone would suggest you go for, especially if you're at a point where you're doing redesigns. Naturally, a demo reel, a show reel could have things that you want to work on. Like I was saying about redesigns earlier in the stream, you know, it represents like your ambitions. And of course, you'll have things that you have worked on. And sometimes if your show reel is, if you've worked on enough things that your show reel remains interesting for longer, like if you have a laundry list of mega hits and it's like, oh my God, they worked on that one too, then yeah, for sure, you could probably push it longer and get away with it. But even then, I'm not sure you have any need to. The 130 is like, for someone who's trying to, move beyond the redesigns into working on things like actively in the industry, I think it's a pretty bold argument to say that a reel can even be in a minute and a half. Honestly, this doesn't need to be. I mean, it's plenty. So right here, see? So we're talking like 2/3 of what you've done so far. Let's talk about info and titling and stuff. I would throw your email address here, because why not? Can't hurt. Just have more impressions of how people can get in touch, you know? Could even have these things too. Just have the same thing at the end. You have like the abridged version of your bio. Could do that here as well. It's like an abridged version of your contact info. I guess in this case, it seems like you're pretty certain they're watching it on your website. So there's that. If it's like a YouTube embed, you don't have the luxury of knowing how they're watching it. So this might be a little safer, but even so, it couldn't hurt to have your email there, you know? Transitions and titling and stuff. Let's go. What time is it? 5:15. Okay, we got time. Too long. What a palate cleanse. So long. We're now 8 seconds in. So again, I remind you of that advice I received at GDC, not personally, like in a talk, that your job is to, within 10 seconds, make them want to hear more. That's it may seem like not much time, but I mean, if you're, again, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's already watched like 50 reels before yours, okay? Like 50 or more, potentially. Let's watch your opening. You know, our goal is to adjudicate if you can work on Horizon Zero Dawn, right? So we're now at 8 seconds in. It's a long time to wait. 2 seconds is plenty, plenty, plenty. I kind of like how your intro has like this this chill vibe. It's interesting, but it's also a bit bold. So I leave it to you to decide what's most important to you. If this branding is very important to you and having the trees and stuff, then cool. But I think that even having this, there's still room to like at least cut it in half, you know? Let's do it. And here's a great opportunity for a J cut. For those in the chat unfamiliar with a J cut, the idea is you hear the next shot, the next clip before you see it. So we could hear like some movement of a beast or the ambience or something fade in before we start seeing what it's from. Because it's blackness. Look at this. Start hearing it now, and now we're showing where it is, you know? Keep that attention. This is very low in the shot. We've talked about lower thirds being a third up the screen. Yep, can't hurt. Do that, otherwise it gets stomped on by UI elements, you know? I'm also kind of sad that your titles don't match your site. Well, your site's kind of a bit scattered in terms of its branding. Like this is nice, you know, this text and the font and the presentation. I was hoping that you'd have something like Benedict's titling, where you have the kind of black background, right? Like this style, but like with your font. That'd be super cool. It'd be like really tight. You know, be slick, nice and slick. And those details go a long way to just convince people kind of, again, like even unconsciously, that they're like, oh, this person is like details oriented, you know, because you didn't need to do that. It's not relevant to your sound work, but it's just like the idea of presenting a full package is, you know, it's really powerful. Absolutely. Right, so fade across. Next thing, here it is. We got FPS implementation with... Kevin, your sidechain, Jesus. FPS implementation with Unity and Fmod. Right. What is this? Is this like a demo level or something? Or a tutorial level? Like, did you make that level? Because I know this is almost like the subheading, you know? And so is that previous one. Like FPS implementation with Unity and Fmod, like that's kind of what you did. It's not really what the thing is though. So I would name this piece, you know, like in this case, Horizon Zero Dawn could even be, you know, again, just like Ben's or like Josh's or many other lower thirds. More conventionally, you put like what the thing is, like what the game is, what the piece is called, and then below that being what you did. Just to make it easy to parse, like very easy to parse. Again, the goal being to keep people focused on your awesome sound work, right? Of course, your sounds are awesome. Keep looking up there. Instead, don't read the text forever. So having it very easy to break down and read just at a glance is helpful to you for that purpose. It's not just to kind of, you know, submit to the will of the whole of the many who are like, this is how you do it. Okay, moving on. Environment stuff, got it. Moving on. This is a bold trailer to redesign, and it's not bad. It's a pretty good effort. I'm not sure I've seen that trailer redesigned either. I know the trailer. I certainly was familiar with it, but I don't think I've seen it redesigned. It's nice. Okay, we'll get into content stuff later. Portal 2, Valve, trailer audio redesign. Yes, sure. Trailer audio redesign? Audio is kind of superfluous there, isn't it? We know it's a sound redesign. Audio, I guess there too. Trailer. This is like game. You could do like a gameplay redesign and trailer redesign. Like that might not be a bad idea, but we know it's an audio reel. You know, that's okay. Just again, trim the fat, kill all the words you don't need there to allow people to read things very easily. Okay, great. So let's talk about material selection. This reel screams, I want to work in AAA. Because look at this, Horizon Zero Dawn and Portal and FPS implementation and dynamic stuff implementation. Yes, this thing says, please give me a studio gig, please. So hopefully that's correct. If that's not correct, then you have some changes to make. But I suspect that's the case. In fact, let me go here. So about... Yeah, so in this case, your page doesn't say what Benedict said, which is what I mentioned. The if you'd like to work together, get in touch. Like that's the kind of thing that you don't see on like resume style pages like yours. And that's fine. In-house, but yeah, there you go. Sure. There you go. So, yeah, good. This is what you've communicated to me. So excellent. Let's go into content quality a bit. We have like 10 minutes left-ish. So, I said around like 20 seconds. I was like, oh, okay, what else does boss have in his reel? This opening clip is for me missing a lot of detail. And a big part of that, again, in the first 10 seconds, make me want to hear more. So we're now at 10 seconds. And granted, it's a longer break than you want to have at the beginning, like you were saying in chat. So it'll be a bit sooner than this. But this arrow shot, for instance, has got to be like really, really good. I mean, how much of the game is this bow, you know? Like it's got to be solid. So having a lot more like impact on the release is going to be really important. I mean, your goal here as the sound designer for this project, you know, potentially, is to make the player feel powerful, like feel like a badass. And when things sound awesome and sound strong and powerful, that goes a long way to satisfy that goal. And right now, this release is like. It's maybe a little like, maybe too, I mean, I think even in reality, it might sound a little more like thunk than that, but it feels like we're hearing the arrow whoosh only and not really like the actual, the release of the string, you know? Moving on though. So in this shot, we have a lot, the stereo image. So this is like, it's a gameplay redesign, but you're not in engine, obviously. Like you're just doing a linear redesign of a gameplay clip, right? So in this case, the ambience here is so wide and rich. There's so much going on, you know? Like there's stuff all around, but in this opening shot, it's kind of absent, you know? We're in this and so forth of this big beast. But in terms of the panorama, so the panorama, we don't have the ambience left and right, which probably could be bookending the action in the middle of the screen, or the middle of the, you know, the view at least, the perspective. So instead, we have this like wide panorama of this entity, right? But it's not really all around us. It's really a lot of content left and right here. And like I was saying earlier, sure, like why not have like a narrower stereo field for this big beast? Why not make it sound a little bigger? So when you are right on top of it, you can widen it up, and it sounds like it's much wider, because you know your head's like in the hood of the car engine, right, while it's running. It's not like you're down the block pointing at the car running down the street. It certainly could be all around you, but for the time being, you shouldn't be enveloped in the sound when it's like, you know, pretty far away from you. And Brad's also mentioning high frequency stuff. Yeah, so for frequency range, there's certainly room for that. So I was like, do. But where's like the, I mean, that stomp, for instance, we'll focus in real hard on this stomp. Right? The classic close your eyes test. Like, what do you hear? Almost nothing. It's a bit kind of dirt in there and a bit of thud, you know? Jayon says, add some dirt rocks foley. That's not bad advice. There is room for a little more of like all the materials at play. Absolutely. I mean, this thing is made of certainly not just some. There is kring, you know. Like, what are the just the details I mentioned? You have some really cool textures you're playing with in terms of synth and so forth, but it's a bit generalized, and it's the kind of thing that might work as a layer underneath the specifics of what's happening. Like, it's kind of a neat thing. It's a bit dangerous as a sound designer, and you need to be aware of this when you're designing things. I certainly am guilty of this myself, that you'll kind of put in a foundation for something like these synth layers you have, and then your brain gets tricked into being like, oh, it sounds so full and like sweet, but really all it is you're just filling the silence, right? Reverb does the same thing. It's a very dangerous tool to use because you can easily just like fill the silent void, and suddenly you're like, oh, sweet, the sound is done, but it's not really done. You just have, there's a wave over time. That's kind of all you've accomplished. So in this case, again, Jay in the chat saying hydraulic sounds and various things like that. Yes, totally. So you can think like, what actually is the machine, and what is lifting the leg, and what's putting the leg back down. There's like a kind of, but not much of one. And like, what's it made of? What's the ground made of? And reflect all those things, and then once all those things are filled in, like the specificity of those things, then that synth layer underneath will probably do a great job of like supporting everything on top of that, like all those details, right? But until then, we have this like, but really, if you like watch this leg again, I'm really focused on this leg, sorry. Like, sure, that like, I don't think that's an inappropriate sound for this thing, but it just probably isn't the entirety of the sound for this thing in that moment, at least. And then you can kind of extrapolate that feedback across kind of all of the movement for this character, and even for the protagonist as well. I mean, there's like rolls and stuff, With that roll, there's probably more room for some Foley there and such, right? Shouldn't be silent. That was cool. That impact, it's nice. Nice. Classic. Yeah, I just perhaps personal preference, but this post-explosion low pass thing, it sounds a bit like my ear is against the wall of the bathtub, and I'm like tapping it. It's a little bit resonant and like reverby, more than just low passed, and it didn't quite register. It didn't quite read to me as simply you've been deafened. It felt like our environment had changed also, which is maybe not quite what you were going for. On the whole, things like this, you can be a little, there's more leniency, I think, when people are judging this kind of thing, because this is showing like, hey, I am taking it upon myself to learn implementation and check it out. This is this thing I'm working on right now. What do you think? And really, that's showing you're personally taking the initiative to do these things is your goal in showing this. That's kind of, you're certainly succeeding in that front. If it sounds awesome, then bonus, right? Again, I'm not really a guns guy, so I can't give you like specific detailed advice on like the gun itself. But the one thing that stood out to me in a big way was like this kind of reverb post explosion. Yeah, it didn't feel quite right. This is cool. It's nice, but again, it's just long. For showing ambience in your show reel is kind of, it's good and it's bad, because not many people do like, hey, here's like my environment, implementation, because it's not very action packed. In terms of holding people's attention, it can be a little bit challenging, but it's also kind of good for that reason, because you don't see it very often. So when you have something like this, it's like, oh, neat, like what a nice change of pace. So I think the way you did it, like this ordering, is probably the way to do it. Having like, this redesign up front with some action, and then some action at the end too, with this in the middle, is like, oh, kind of nice little respite from the fast-paced, high-energy content on each side. Do I feel a show reel is the wrong kind of place for these kinds of things, like in-engine learning stuff? No, I don't think so, because it really comes down to this core concept of your demo reel being a teaser trailer for you as a person. And this is certainly relevant to learning about you as a person. You know, if you have only a minute to say, hey, here is everything you need to know if you only have a minute of time. So please, like, thank you so much for seeing my stuff. And it's only a minute, have a look. And people can usually, you know, they can part with 1 minute of their life to see your stuff. So having like, hey, here's this FPS thing I did just for a brief moment. And then having, hey, here's some environment implementation stuff I did. Again, for a short, 10 seconds, something like that. That's not a bad thing, because if in the end someone wants to see more of that, then let's see if we can. We can go to your sound design page, and can we see it? Is it under your technical sound design reel? We'll see. Because yeah, that's kind of the stumbling block a lot of people hit, is they put like everything in the reel. Because they're like, oh my God, I need to show them everything I've done. And that's just the wrong move. You should do a quick kind of glimpse and then just trust that if people want to learn more, they'll click further. They'll deep dive into your page and say, oh, well, now I'll look at their bio and I'll look at their like fire, sound design and breakdown, like with Benedict, or I'll look at this, a deeper narrated version of the, dynamic environment content you were showing there on the front page. So having a deeper dive elsewhere on your page would be super powerful, because yeah, if someone doesn't care about that, then it doesn't matter. But if they do care about that, then you have something for them. So it's kind of this, again, it's a bit of a mind game of you as the creator of this page and all this content saying, what do I think people might want to see more of? Like, what do I think they might want to do if they watch the reel and they're still interested? And if they're still interested, they might want to see any number of things, right? They might be stoked to see more redesign content, or stoked to see more of the environment stuff, or whatever, right? So if you have that answer for them, then sick. And again, that page that we had up earlier, like this is the golden example of that, because Josh has so much stuff here that like no person is going through, who's like hiring, is going through and watching the full length of all of these videos. Of course they're not. Right? They're too busy. But if they watch the reel and go like, oh, damn, like Grimhex Station looked sweet, then that's here. They can click this video. And that might be the only thing they click, but Josh has made it, has engineered this page such that person has the 2 of the 1-2 punch. That's the idea. If there's no Grimhex Station video here, then that person has not been satisfied. They want to see more and they can't see it, which is the worst position to be in. Back to your page here again. So I want to talk about your portal thing really quick. I know I'm a bit over time here, but I do want to talk about this a little bit. Home, play, and we'll end there, I think, on the portal clip. So this opening clip was cool. The first clip here, I want to press spacebar. I can't. So that, I felt, had a little more detail than your Horizon Zero Dawn clip, in terms of like what you were showing, right? The various smaller specifics at play. I think there's still more room for it though, like these tiles falling off and stuff. There's so much detail in these clips that you can just dig in so deep on this stuff. Like the various parts falling, you don't need to have like a debris layer just to go like, and debris, done. You can like sync to the parts falling off, right? Like it's these big chunks that you can really dig in on details. So, but in terms of frequency range, like I believed it, sure. There's probably still more room for some higher end in there. Doesn't need to be the focus, but just a little more, just some presence in the high end. This clip alone is why this is such a bold redesign. There's so much going on. And this is the trick here. This is like into audio direction territory, because I noticed that in different parts of this trailer, the mechanisms at play, like the machine arms and such, in some cases sounded different than in other areas of the same reel. And they probably should sound a bit different based on, the task they're performing, but they probably shouldn't sound entirely different. So if you hear this one, I mean, that arm is basically the same thing as these arms. And then later on in the video, like this one, again, these are all the same thing. Like these things moving are the exact same thing as this opening clip, right? Same arm, same like whoop, same elevation. So the fact that this clip in particular, the ding 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 one, that clip stood out to me as being like wrong. That it felt like you, the designer, had established this rule, and the rule is these machine things sound like this, you know? And then you broke your rule like 10 seconds later. So just be aware of that. That kind of goes into that again, like loops back into this whole like the leg falling down clip, right? Like what does this sound like? What does the up sound like? What does the down sound like? When I design things like this, I kind of like invent like again rules for it. Like, hey, so when it goes up, it's gonna be like a higher pitch, and then down's like a lower pitch, or vice versa. And like when it hits the peak, or when it changes direction to like move this way now, I'll put like a ksh in or something like that. Like you make these rules and then abide by them. You know, you establish these rules for yourself and then you follow them. That's the idea. Because yeah, as soon as you break your rules, it's like, oh, that didn't seem right because we were just fed information prior that conflicts with what you're showing us. There's some cool design in here though, for sure there is. This is a good example too. You kind of banked hard on the higher end here. It's the higher, kind of like that tremolo. It's really focused on the high end. You'd probably have a little more low end if you're that close to it, like proximity effect stuff. You know, the closer you are to a sound source, the more bass there is. We're right in Wheatley, is that the name? Wheatley's face. Like in that clip, we have more bass. That's nice. Here, a little more. And I do like how you're changing kind of the frequency focus of the space you're in as you're dropping through these different scenes. That does help kind of the energy of like, we're going here, now we're here, now we're here, now we're here. If you had like the same, for example, like an egregious example, like be the same ambience through all of them, right? You wouldn't have that same feeling of like, you know, transporting from place to place. Whereas this makes it very clear that you are moving from place to place. So that's cool. Nice work. Yeah, that's a strong clip there. This like the whole kind of cargo container. It's cool. Yeah, I mean, just like redesigning Portal is such a bold move because it's such an iconic sound, like the sound of the Portal gun, right? It's like redesigning the lightsaber. It's like, oh, it just doesn't sound right. So it's certainly a challenge you're faced with when you try and redesign things like this. But I mean, if you made this whole thing shorter, the whole reel, you could just not show the Portal gun at the end. Problem solved. Easy. The sounds of the tiles shifting is a much lesser known sound than the sound of the Portal gun itself. So there's that. All right, 540. That's plenty, I think. Boss and Benedict, as always, feel free to follow up afterwards. You can hit me up on Twitter or email or whatever, and I'll be happy to clarify anything or answer any further questions we couldn't quite get to. And that goes for kind of anyone too. If anyone wants to like reach out and ask things, I might not get back to you immediately, but I try to keep up with DMs like at least a month at a time. So feel free, please. Otherwise, nice work, boss. I don't think you're quite standing out in a crowd yet. I think a little more focus in terms of like branding stuff and flow stuff and like the details we're talking about in terms of specifics in design, like the smaller kind of articulations, as well as, you know, taking check of your or taking stock, I guess, rather, is how you say it, taking stock of your frequency content. Like if you have your highs there, if you have your lows there, if they're like represented appropriately for what the scene is. Thinking about your panorama and such, if things are split for a reason or if they're not, you know, point source location, ambience being nice and wide, all that stuff. It's all the engaging or the elements of an engaging sound mix being balanced, like volume of things, like you're talking with Benedict, you know, making sure the volume things are nice and appropriate from moment to moment, and frequency range, and panorama and dynamics as well. You know, not just making things loud, but like making things quiet too, naturally. As well as dimension, the space stuff. It's kind of like what we're saying with this this FPS. You know, the post grenade blast. Like, does the space sound right? Like, it might not be quite perfect. And then finally, interest is just neat stuff, just things that sound cool, cool effects and cool, you know, hero moments in sound design and such. Yeah, so that's the gist. So thanks so much. We have one more of these for both you and Benedict. As my side chain stomps in the applause. And head back over to Fmod for a chill play us out. Again, if anyone wants to feel like they like their own work reviewed, then feel free to submit your work via the Twitter links below. At Power Up Audio is, of course, the whole company, and at RegMK is me personally. It'll get to us either way. And if you're not on Twitter, no worries. You can contact us at our contact form on powerupaudio.com. Feel free, please. Again, the waitlist is like mid-April right now, but you know, feel free to come back and learn more from other people's reviews. You'll probably hear things that you can apply to your own work too. And thanks everyone for offering your own feedback in chat. As always, I will see you in 2 weeks. Again, I think we're going to change to noon PST and not 4 p.m. PST. So like 4 hours prior to whatever time you tuned in today. That's the idea. Okay, so thanks a lot, everyone. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks.